CTV News with Matt Gilmour.
Good evening and welcome to this half-hour newscast on CJ 8800 and CTV News Montreal.ca. A mother's search for her missing son continues. Liam Toman vanished 10 months ago in Mont-Tremblant. Now his mother is back at the resort, desperately looking for answers. Here's Sweeta Rassi.
This weekend, Mont-Tremblant is packed with visitors for the World Cup. But for one Ontario mother, the focus isn't the competition.
So it's bringing back all the skiers, back the tourists. So we're here to keep the awareness.
The awareness is for her son, Liam Toman. The 22-year-old was on a ski trip with friends. He was last seen leaving a bar in the village on February 2nd at 3 a.m. But he never made it back to his hotel. Less than a month later, on March 22nd, after the snow melted, his wallet was found. But that led nowhere. For Kathleen Toman, her son's disappearance just doesn't make sense.
Nobody just vanishes. We truly believe somebody does know something.
10 months later, she is once again back at the Laurentian Resort, handing out wristbands and speaking with anyone willing to listen.
And we're hoping that sparks something. Somebody remembers or knows something or will come in and say what's going on.
And now the reward to help find Liam increased from $10,000 to $50,000.
So they've got a lot more calls and information and tips, and they're working through each one of them.
In November, the family worked alongside Sûreté du Québec and other organizations to search for Liam. We reached out to the SQ, but they told us there is no new information at this time. The family also created a website detailing a timeline of the events leading up to his disappearance. Despite the mystery surrounding Liam, Kathleen remains hopeful she will find answers.
And I will not stop. Our family will not stop. We're going to figure this out.
As a mother's search for her missing son continues. Sweeta Rassi, CTV News.
Air Transat pilots could walk off the job as early as Wednesday. The union has issued a 72-hour strike notice just ahead of the busy holiday travel season. The Airline Pilots Association says it was unable to find common ground following nearly a year of negotiations with the owner of the airline. Transat says flight cancellations will start to kick in on Monday and ramp up over the following 2 days. Transat claims it has offered pilots a 59% salary hike over 5 years and major improvements to working conditions.
There's about 10,000 Canadians a day that fly on Transat, particularly this time of year with the Christmas holidays and everything else going on. So there is going to be a significant impact on Canadian travel plans as a result of this work stoppage. So I hope cooler heads will prevail, that we don't need to see disruption, particularly this time of year.
The airline says it will inform customers of canceled flights. Firefighters discovered the body of a man underneath a balcony that had caught on fire in Longueuil last night. It happened just before 11 p.m. on Saint Charles West. The fire started under the balcony of the former Messina restaurant. The victim has yet to be identified. Longueuil Mayor Catherine Fournier reacted on social media, suggesting that the person may have been homeless and could have started the fire to stay warm. Longueuil police are also investigating a deadly home invasion. An elderly couple was assaulted by the intruder. Both victims were rushed to hospital where the man died of his injuries. The woman was injured to the upper body and is in stable condition. A 19-year-old woman was arrested at the scene. An elderly man and an elderly woman are dead after a head-on collision in the Laurentians. Police say a motorist traveling eastbound on Route 158 in Lachute veered into oncoming traffic and collided with another vehicle. The man and woman in that vehicle were taken to hospital where they later died of their injuries. The driver of the other vehicle is seriously injured, but their life is not in danger. The reason for the collision remains unknown and an investigation is ongoing. The West Island community is getting a new community hub. The West Island Assistance Fund has officially acquired the Canada Post Distribution Centre on Rue du Centre Commercial. The building will be transformed into a food bank, thrift store, and bistro. The organization says more than 24,000 people in the community are living below the poverty line.
It's coming at the right time because 1 in 3 people that are beneficiaries of our services for food are children. It's coming at the right time because there are people, elderly population, that cannot make ends meet because of the increased price of rent, of food, etc., and are alone. So the short answer is it is significant and it's coming at the right time to serve the community.
The hub will partially open by September of 2026. Well, winter's early arrival is being celebrated on ski slopes, and with the fresh snow, a push to encourage first-timers is paying off. Christine Long has more.
Sommet Saint-Sever is open and the slopes are bustling.
It's incredible. The conditions are great.
We're having so much fun.
Mountain fast. I love speed.
Mes amis descendent en poudreuse, c'est incroyable.
The snow that's been piling up since November gave resorts a jump on the season, says Yves Junot of the Quebec Association of Ski Stations.
This is an amazing season start for us. We have over 35 ski areas open all across Quebec right now.
Christiane Dufour of Sommet Saint-Sever says snow is the best advertising they can hope for.
We try to put marketing out there, marketing to tell people we're open, but nothing will get the people into it as just a bit of snow in Montreal or a bit of snow in your backyard, and then people will automatically switch into that winter mode.
Winter mode translates into more money for resort operators.
I think we're going to see bigger numbers. Usually the early season before Christmas, it's less than 10%. It's between 4 and 7% of our business. And now it's looking like it's going to really go up because the snow is here. People are excited.
I'm really excited every day when I wake up and come here to ski.
It's all common stuff. Like, you're just focused. It's fun.
It's not for everybody, you know. It's very expensive, but at the same time, it's very, very fun.
With the cost of living on the rise, skiing and boarding can be expensive. The Association of Ski Stations website, manège.ski, lists beginners' deals and student discounts. Plus, Junot says research season passes and long-term equipment rentals to keep your costs down.
With 72 ski areas across Quebec, there are always great deals available.
Dufour says some smaller hills have better prices than the big resorts.
So many beautiful ski resorts out there like Vallée Bleue, Gabriel, Rigaud that will offer Edelweiss and Outaouais that will offer deals or discount tickets, or even just their regular rack rate is much lower than those resorts. So there are options out there for people who just want to go out and enjoy a beautiful day of skiing.
Because winter is here for months, might as well try to enjoy it.
We need the sport in the winter.
Christine Long, CTV News.
Close to half of Quebec toddlers are spending at least an hour per day looking at screens. Research suggests screen time, particularly for children under 2, is highly damaging to development, and the numbers have experts concerned. Joining me now is Dr. Victoria Talwar, who holds the Canada Research Chair in the Department of Educational and Counseling Psychology at McGill University. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So first of all, what's your reaction to this survey? 43% of 2.5-year-olds on screens for an hour a day and 65% spending an hour a day on screens on the weekends. What's your reaction?
Well, I was a bit surprised. We have known now in the last, since the pandemic, more and more people are talking about the ills that have to do with screen time and how it can affect all of us negatively. But and that's come out more and more, both in the research, but also out in the media. So I think we're becoming more and more aware that we need to be mindful of how much we use screens and how we use them. But it shows that there's still a lot of work to do in terms of getting that message across, but also in terms of how we implement it in our lives and how we as parents think through how we use screens and how we let our children interact with screens.
What is the main concern about screens? How is it so damaging to development?
It's really, for young children, it's particularly bad because young children are going through a lot of brain development in those first couple of years of life. And we're sort of hardwired to learn through social interactions with others. And we need real world, children need to play with toys. They need to interact with another human being, with a parent, with other adults in their lives. And it's through that children learn lots of things in terms of their own cognitive development, through their social, emotional development, learning language. So it's really, really important to have sort of interaction with the world around them. And screen time really displaces a lot of that learning. So it can really have potentially negative effects. At the very least, it's taking them away from those times when they are learning, and it may have further detrimental effects in terms of emotion regulation. There's still research being done on this, and there's still more that will come out for us to understand the longer term impacts. But certainly now, all research points to really having very limited screen time or no screen time for children 2 and under.
I want to ask you if there's a difference between the types of screens that kids are watching on. Phones, tablets on one side, maybe TV movie night with the family on the other. Is there a better kind of screen time, or is it all sort of should be thought of in the same sort of basket?
So the key point to what you said was with the family. So there's a lot of difference between the child just passively using the screen, whatever screen that may be, a tablet, a phone, or the television, and interacting with an adult next to them, and the adult sort of co-viewing and there being interaction together. It is, if you're going to have screen time, that's the type of screen time that is good for children, where there is you're co-viewing with the child, you're interacting, the whole family's together and interacting. That's more positive than just this passive screen time where the children sort of just stuck in front of the screen. That doesn't have any real benefit for young children at all.
What is an appropriate amount of screen time? I know you said below 2, 0, but when can you start to introduce it? Anybody who's got young children will tell you that it's somewhat impossible to keep the children away from either the TV or the screen now and then. So for parents who are struggling with this and don't necessarily know when it's okay to start introducing it, like, what would you say to them?
So the first thing I would say to parents is, if your child's having more screen time than what the experts recommend, don't have guilt. In terms of guidelines, what I would say is, yes, the best is no screen time before 2. If they are going to have screen time, keeping it really limited and potentially have co-viewing time together. And I always caveat that with all these limits, that does not include time where, for instance, you're having a Zoom with with the grandparents, because that is social interaction and that's staying connected. So, if your 1-year-old is saying hello to grandma on Zoom, that's not a bad thing.
Okay, that's a very good point and a good clarification. Unfortunately, we have to leave it there. Dr. Victoria Toddler, thanks so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, just a week before Parliament breaks for the holidays, the Prime Minister's budget is still stuck in the House of Commons. And as CTV's Jeremy Charron reports, Canadians are skeptical it's going to help them financially.
It's a book filled with big promises, but Federal Budget 2025 doesn't do enough to help Canadians with their finances, according to a new survey.
The budget has a long-term vision for jobs. Maybe it's put a spotlight on the fact that good economic policy might not make for good politics.
A new Nanos survey conducted for CTV News shows less than 1 in 5 Canadians think the government's fiscal plan will help them financially. In fact, just over 1 in 3 believe the budget will in some way worsen their personal finances.
That's not a very great number for a government that is looking to build confidence in Canadians who are struggling to pay for the bills.
Meanwhile, the budget bill itself is far from becoming law yet.
It's a minority parliament, so getting legislation passed is a challenge.
The official legislation is still stuck in the House of Commons being debated and has several hurdles to cross still, with only a week left on the sitting schedule this year.
You can't actually start to move on those provisions. You can't get the second reading vote. You can't get it passed into law. And so that's going to start to affect real things. Measures that were planned to be implemented in January might not.
The honourable member. A political roadblock the Liberals could continue to face in the new year, even though Green Party leader Elizabeth May is leaving the door open to supporting the Liberal government in the future, despite recently saying her vote in favour of the budget was a mistake.
I'm a bridge builder, and I never say never.
May says her vote moving forward would require a change in policies.
I can't vote confidence on the current policies, period.
And so the Liberals seem poised to start 2026 how they're finishing 2025, fighting to get a major piece of legislation through the House of Commons and without a clear path to survive the next confidence vote when it comes. Jeremy Chion, CTV News, Ottawa.
Ukrainian officials say several Russian airstrikes targeted energy infrastructure sites across the country overnight as peace talks end in Miami. Britt Clennett reports.
Russia launching another massive attack on Ukraine, hitting the country's infrastructure as it attempts to cripple its transportation links and energy supply. Overnight, hitting a railway hub in Kremenchuk in central Ukraine, one day after this train depot outside of Kyiv was struck. These latest strikes come as 3 days of peace talks wrapped up in Miami. U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and President Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner met with Ukrainian officials. In addition to those meetings, Ukrainian President Zelensky says he had a constructive call with Witkoff and Kushner on Saturday, saying the parties agreed on next steps without giving any details of what those were. Zelensky now heads to London for talks with European leaders.
They need to focus on Europe being the advocate for Ukraine. One, because of the first ceasefire proposal that was written was so pro-Russian, it wasn't until Ukraine and Secretary Rubio, quite frankly, got directly involved that it turned into the 19-point plan, which is much more amenable.
French President Emmanuel Macron says they must continue to exert pressure on Russia to compel it to choose peace.
They only will stop if they either think the consequences are too much to bear or the consequences actually cut off the funding needed.
Witkoff and Kushner traveled to Moscow last week, where they met with Russian President Vladimir Putin, President Trump describing it as a good meeting.
He would like to end the war. That was their impression.
The Kremlin describing the talks as useful, but saying no compromise plan was agreed to. And just last week, Putin saying he is ready in principle to fight to the last Ukrainian. Britt Clennett, ABC News, Kyiv.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says he will meet with President Donald Trump later this month to discuss the second phase of the so-called ceasefire in Gaza. But he says he expects negotiations to be difficult.
But I haven't seen yet a clear delineation of what you say is the American position, which is contrary to our position. In fact, that's exactly what I'm going to talk to President Trump about.
Violence has not stopped since the first phase of the truce took effect on October 11th. 373 Palestinians have been killed, according to the Gaza Health Ministry, and 3 Israeli soldiers. Hamas has returned all 20 living hostages and 27 bodies in exchange for around 2,000 Palestinian detainees. The body of one hostage remains in Gaza. There's talk in Ottawa about building another interprovincial bridge connecting the east end of Ottawa to Gatineau. Josh Morano reports.
Plans for an interprovincial bridge connecting Ottawa and Gatineau once again sparking controversy after the National Capital Commission released its first round of public consultations.
It's overkill in terms of satisfying the needs for commuters from the Quebec side. That would only lead to congestion downtown.
More than 5,000 people participated in the online survey from Ontario and Quebec. Reducing truck traffic in the downtown core was ranked most important by 38.5% of respondents, followed by reducing commute times and better options for public transit. However, traffic impacts on neighborhoods was a common concern, highlighted by 25.6% of people surveyed, followed by impacts of construction and increased congestion on nearby roads.
They've opened a community center just around the corner here, and the traffic on the street has increased. So that's a small thing. Imagine what a bridge would do with all the approaches and everything else.
It's been a minute since we've had a lot of truck traffic on King Edward. It is the only interprovincial truck route in North America that goes through a downtown core. Having a solution to that would be helpful.
Plans for an interprovincial bridge connecting Ottawa's Aviation Parkway to Gatineau's Monte-Paiement across Kettle Island have been talked about for decades. The current attempt was included in the federal government's 2024 fall economic statement.
It's all our responsibility to help increase interprovincial trade and lessen our dependence on the United States. We don't know what's going to happen with the political situation there, so we have to reinforce our own businesses, our own small businesses, and we have to make sure that we have systems in place that support that.
However, many feel there are more realistic options to alleviate traffic, especially with the bridge estimated to cost $4 billion.
A ring road is the only solution to be able to bridge between the 416 and the 417 all the traffic that we see and the constant congestion going through downtown on the 417. Adding more trucks to that traffic is not going to help anything.
For Brunette, the bridge risks turning an already busy parkway into something unmanageable.
All you have to do is see the aviation or the parkway at rush hour heading to or from in the morning, and you can see that it with the bridge, that would just be untenable, in my view.
Josh Morano, CTV News.
And time now for our In Case You Missed It feature. For people already on a tight budget, next year will be even tougher. Food prices are expected to rise again, and for the average family of four, it could mean a grocery bill of around $18,000 for the year. Here's Olivia O'Malley.
At the checkout in 2026, grocery bills are set to rise. According to the food price report, feeding an average family of four will cost almost $1,000 more.
I think it's not normal.
It's getting harder and harder to afford.
It's already kind of expensive, so for it to go up even more is just like tiring, I guess you could say.
The study expects food prices to rise anywhere between 4 to 6% next year, meaning the average household would spend over $17,500 on groceries. Recent graduate Dashiell Friesen says he's already making plans to buy less of certain items.
I might try to reduce the amount of meat that I eat just because of how expensive it is. I just got beef and it's way more expensive than I expected.
Lead author of the food price report, Sylvain Charlebois, says beef is a primary reason why food will cost more. According to the report, in January, cattle herds were at their smallest level since 1988.
The issue with beef is pushing people to consider other proteins like chicken and pork, and those proteins are becoming more expensive as well.
He says the price of canned goods and pantry staples are also expected to rise.
Dry pasta, sauces, nuts, coffee, breakfast cereals.
There are many reasons for the increases, issues like trade and climate change, but also company restructuring. As a result, Charlebois says he's expecting lots of products to be discontinued next year.
So instead of having 14 flavors for one sauce, you'll probably have 10 or 8, and that's going to reduce competition.
Charlebois says Canadians will save money on bakery and dairy products, even vegetables in 2026. And for even more savings, Montrealers we spoke to say they check flyers for deals.
I basically shop for sales. I go through the flyer and I buy what's on sale and I make my meal plans around that.
Charlebois says a nearly $1,000 increase for a family of four is the highest he's seen in the report's 16-year history. Olivia O'Malley, CTV News.
The Montreal Victoire took on the Toronto Scepters at home this afternoon. Katie Tabin got the scoring started for Montreal in the first period. The Victoire took a 2-0 lead in the second period when Haley Skamura scored her first goal of the season. Toronto would cut the lead in half, Emma Gentry scoring early in the third, but Laura Stacey would find the back of the net in the third on the power play to give Montreal the 3-1 victory. It's the second straight win for the Victoire. The Montreal Canadiens can reclaim first place in the NHL's Atlantic Division tonight when they host the St. Louis Blues. The Canadiens enter the contest in third place in the division, 1 point behind both Tampa Bay and Boston. They don't get much of a breather, though, after their shootout win over the Maple Leafs in Toronto last night. It was Cole Caulfield who opened the scoring, tucking it in at the back post midway through the second, and Alexandre Texier scored the shootout winner as the Canadiens topped the Toronto Maple Leafs 2-1. Well, a weekend of Women's World Cup alpine skiing at Mont Tremblant ended today. Austria's Julia Scheib raced to a grand slalom victory. Scheib finished with a 2-run time of 2 minutes 13 seconds to pick up her third grand slalom medal of the season. And McLaren driver Lando Norris clinched his first F1 title at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix today, the final race of the season. The 26-year-old became the first British champion since Lewis Hamilton in 2020. He also denied Red Bull driver and defending champion Max Verstappen a fifth straight title. Norris entered the three-way battle 12 points ahead of Verstappen and 16 ahead of his McLaren teammate Oscar Piastri. Thanks for watching. That's it for us. Have a good evening.